Welcome to the Florence Foodies Podcast, a place for the community to gather and share the stories, voices, and experiences that make Florence feel like home. To support this podcast and the Florence Foodies platform as a whole, click the Support This Podcast link found in the description.
A true South Florence Bruin. You know, it's funny that I graduated from West, but as I become an adult, like all of the local people that are close to me are South Florence guys and gals. I don't know why that happened like that.
Well, I graduated South Florence 2013, and it's part of the reason you're, part of the family. So, all the people you get to hang out with are South Florence.
Yep. It's true. Married into a South Florence family. It's all good, though. I'm not complaining about it.
Yep.
And, another thing, too, and maybe I'm a little weird in in sports. I don't know, on some levels. I mean, I don't like the Cowboys, so I don't ever want to see them succeed. But sometimes some rivals that I have in my sports fan-isms, I like to see the success. So everything that's happening with South I think is awesome.
Man, so, I grew up a hater of the other programs, as most people do.
Right.
But as I get older and I start understanding that these schools doing good is good for the community and it's good for the people around here. So, I can say that now that South Florence is winning. But I really want all the schools to succeed and do good because it just helps our community. So.
Yeah. So you were a standout South Florence player yourself.
I played football at South Florence for 4 years. We only lost to West one time. We were 8-1. We played them twice back then. I think it was 8-1. No, because we played them 3 times in one season one time and beat them all 3 times.
Thanks for mentioning that.
I just wanted to get that out there. But we lost to them our senior year, so that does hurt. We played 4 years, and I played baseball at South, and I don't know if we beat West, so they can get us on that one. So,
Coach Marlowe's only been there for 4 or 5 years,
something like that.
Who was the coach whenever you were there?
So we had Lynn Fleming. When my ninth grade year, I think he took over when I was in 8th grade, and then David Prince took over our senior year. So both of them great coaches, great people. Just different culture, and we were playing in a different division then, so all that stuff kind of got structured. We had some good teams and a lot of good players, but Coach Marlowe certainly changed the culture around there, changed the perception. It's win or lose, you win or nothing. So
it can happen. I remember when I was in high school at West, we had not had a lot of success prior to me getting there, and then when I got there. I think the year before and then the year I got there, we'd won a total of 1 game in 2 seasons, and then Coach Jeff Calabrese came. I don't know if you know who Coach Calabrese is, but he came over from Hartsville and brought a lot of success with him. It just changed the whole dynamic of the program. So, I mean, you get the right coach in place, it can change everything.
No, and, that's we need to keep Coach Marlowe around. It's not only that.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. Well, it's not only the winning, and obviously that's great, but the type players or type people he's building. It don't get better than that. I mean, you're sending these leaders out into the community, and guess what that's going to do for Florence? I mean, you obviously as the realtor that we're booming, but these are our local kids. These are our local people, and the leaders that he's grooming to be. That's what you want. And so that's how you build a community. And it's crazy that you think a sports program or football or sports in general can do that. But you're producing. There's 120 kids out there every year. So you add it up.
I think that's been an entire shift in sports that really just even as you're saying it, I'm thinking through it in my mind because this word culture comes up a lot. And we're going to get into that in a minute, but I'm going to save that because we're going to talk a little Gamecocks football here in a minute. But before we get there, this culture idea, when I think about the old school coaches, just football, like the classic coaches, the Shulas, the Vermeils, the Maddens, all these different legendary names in coaching, 80s, 90s, historic coaches. It was always like you looked at it like it's an X's and O's thing. I mean, it's just a leadership and X's and O's, really, I guess. But you think about the gridiron. I don't know how to really say what I'm trying to say. It's just this image of this iconic coach. And I don't think that the culture thing was talked about as much as it's been over the last 10 or 15 years, but especially in college football, but I think it's across the board. I know it changes a little bit in the NFL because all those guys are making a ton of money and they got their own thing going on, but the culture idea is huge, paramount for success.
Well, man, that's a good, I don't. I mean, I can't say I'm a fazant on football and X's and O's, but we always would say that Dabo Swinney don't know nothing about football. But he understands. But he understands people. He understands kids. He understands how to get things out of kids that other coaches can't.
Yeah.
He's a player builder. I mean, Marlo obviously knows stuff like that, but he's the same way. I mean, he's building their character. And if, you go in and I'm going to work hard, I'm going to do all this, it changes. And so, Will Muschamp, I saw him as an X's and O's guy. He's a great defense coordinator, right? Well, the defense coordinator.
Yeah.
But as a program head, the head coach, he struggled, right? So, like, you got Shane Beamer. I mean, obviously he knows a lot of X's and O's, but he's a culture builder. He's trying to say, hey, this isn't, we work hard, we do this, as a group, we're good people. It'll reflect on the field. And I think that's the type, that's where everything's going. So the coaches aren't necessarily got to be the X's and O's. I mean, they obviously do. You got to have good coordinators. But, it's about building the culture of the team. And
Absolutely. So we're about to go down that. We're getting ahead a little bit. Let's back up for a second. So for those that don't know, Will is, and obviously if you clicked the video, you saw the title, but Will Edwards is a local attorney at Finkley, Hendrick, and Blake's office here in Florence on Evans Street. Just talk a little bit about that. What area of law do you practice? You went to the University of South Carolina.
Yeah. So, I graduated South Florence in 2013. I went to the University of South Carolina for 3.5 years. I graduated a little early, and I went to law school in Charleston. So I came back, took the bar. That was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Passed it, and a local attorney that was trying to become a judge put me in touch with Gary Finkley. And so, I mean, I met with them, and it was basically history. I really work. I mean, it's been awesome. I mainly focus in personal injury work. That's more litigation. I'm in court pretty much weekly, taking depositions or different things. I do a little bit of criminal work. I obviously graduated South Florence, and I'm from here, so I know a lot of people. So I do a lot of different areas of law, real estate, and things like that. Now, you obviously don't see me in the closing room. That's Greg and Patrick. But we got a whole different department for that. But we have our litigation department's probably bigger, which people really don't realize. But we do a lot of personal injury work at Finkley. So
yeah, and I've got relationships with a couple of people at your office, and then we're in there doing closings, pretty frequently. We got one going right now, as a matter of fact. Hopefully we'll close next week at your office. But the impression that I get is that Finkley seems like a fun place to work. I don't know. I could be misreading that, but it seems like you guys probably have a good time.
Oh man,
in and out of the office.
We have a great staff. And that's really what makes us is our staff. If we didn't have them, we wouldn't be who we are. So we want to take care of them. We want to have a good, try to have a good time. We took them to Topgolf last year. We try to have any kind of celebration we can have. We have. We really enjoy working. When you go to work, it's not a bad day because you can be laughing and having a good time. Now we're very serious, and there's a lot of serious things that go on. But and especially in our world with the injuries that we're dealing with and the people that we're dealing with, there's a lot of stress and a lot of hard things that we have to deal with. So laughing and cutting up is a must.
It's necessary. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the culture thing. Honestly, that's part of it.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I think you perform better in an environment like that.
Man,
Personally.
if we were as stressed out and worried about all the things we really have, and obviously we focus on those things, but you got to kind of put that to the side and have good people to work with. So.
Yeah. And so you went to the University of South Carolina. I also attended the university. I didn't graduate, but I went for journalism. And to put a timeline on it, whenever I was there, this would have been in the Bruce Ellington timeline. So he was running the point for the basketball team. I remember going to one of the games. I would go to the home basketball games whenever possible. And Anthony Davis was at Kentucky. And so we get down there to Colonial Life, and there's blue everywhere. So I was living in the Bates house.
Oh yeah.
So we walk down, and there's blue everywhere. I was kind of blown away by it a little bit, just because I wasn't expecting what I saw, that they took over the blue people, the entire arena. So we're talking Kentucky basketball.
Yeah.
is its own culture.
And that's all they got. So
Yeah, and this is Calipari time. Like, it was.
they still travel well. They still travel like
Yeah.
that. I mean, that's Kentucky. That's all they got.
That's true.
Is that basketball?
But that's
team.
one thing they've done very well. And so, dude, they completely ran us out of the building. I mean, it was horrible.
Wasn't John Wall on that team? I mean, that team was like, with Anthony Davis, was crazy. Like,
Yeah, I don't think he was on there. I don't think he was on that particular roster. He might have been.
I can't remember. They had a stupid team, Lance.
They did. It was literally, it was very obvious that it was watching an NBA team play our team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I don't think sent anybody to the NBA unfortunately. But yeah, it was, I mean, we got ran out of the building. It was 30-foot alley-oops, from beyond the three-point line. It was all of that stuff. I mean, it was insane. And obviously, particularly Anthony Davis is the main person I remember, but obviously the success he's going on to have. Kentucky, though, they travel very well.
Yeah. And they still do. I still go back to a lot of the games, and that Kentucky still travels real well. So my freshman year at Carolina was Sendarius Thornwell's freshman year. So,
Nice.
Yeah, so I got to grow up in that era with Sendarius and those guys. So my basketball experience, man, I love basketball. I love going. I mean, obviously, I didn't play basketball, I played football and baseball, but I mean, basketball is really fun to watch, and I really hope that South Carolina basketball comes around like the women have. So
I know. That was a heck of a run, too.
Yeah,
The Frank Martin run.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate they couldn't finish it.
Speaking of another old school coach that I mean, he's a culture guy, but he's hard on the boys,
Right.
and a lot of people didn't like that. So I'm more of the, I think you got to be hard on people, on players and young kids. So
I mean, I like that aspect, but whatever works, I guess, especially in this case. So the thing that I love about this podcast is it's community centric, and so the idea behind it was it's just a place to sit down and have regular conversations, and nothing super fancy about any of this, and we can just get to know one another. People from all over the community, walks of life, professions, all the above. And so in your case, as a local attorney, you go to school, you come back home, you're a thoroughbred Florence person, and you leave, go get your education, your degree, you come back, and you put your roots right back down at home. And so, I know a little bit with us being step cousins married into the family, but just for everybody else, you're a family man, you're local. Talk a little bit about where you are now in life.
Yeah, man. So when I went to Dillio Carter, went to Southside, went to South Florence, and actually met my wife at Southside. Now, we didn't start dating her or anything until our senior year of high school, but we've been together ever since. We have a new 7-month-old baby.
Congratulations.
I appreciate it. She's got us. We got our hands full with her, and my little brother just had his baby, and she's turned 1, so she's a little older, and so we've been chasing them around, and obviously we've talked about it a little bit, but I have a big family and a bunch of cousins, and we're all having babies at the same time. So I feel like we got a birthday party every weekend or something going on. But in my free time, I try to play some golf, as much golf as I can. Now my wife gives me a hard time about that, but and those times are changing with the baby. But man, I got a great support system with my parents, and they've been awesome, and my wife's parents, and our siblings just been awesome to help, and so that and as a young lawyer and working through all the stuff we going on, it's tough, but we're getting there, and it's fun. So
Yeah, it's the life, man. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's stressful, it's hectic, it's challenging, but I mean, this is young professionals. There's this idea in our culture a lot of times, like, well, if you're a young professional, well, I'm going to put off having a family. But I think there's a lot of benefit, a lot to be said about having children while you're younger too, because I don't want to be 60 years old with like a 17-year-old personally. So, and I see people doing that. But either way, whatever works for you. But I think it is totally worth it. And there's definitely on your end no shortage of babies popping up. And there might be another young couple with another one. They should be coming up behind y'all soon. No names mentioned.
really,
I'm just saying there should be.
I feel like
I'm not breaking any news. There's nothing. I'm just saying there should be.
Okay.
Logically speaking, there probably would be at some point, but we'll leave that. But I think it's worth it. It's for me, it's kind of the opposite, is because my family was dispersed, and then deaths in the family earlier on in my life left me with. We had a lot of large family gatherings when I was a kid, and I loved that. My cousins would come in, but my cousins are in Columbia, Virginia, all over the place, and so that just, for whatever reason, that just dispersed by the time I was a teenager. And so we didn't have that anymore. So I always wanted to have a large family. And so we're working on that on my end. We're definitely putting work in on that.
Yeah, we kind of grew up different than most people. And what I mean by that is, and this is, my mom's siblings, that they build houses on our family farm.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with all my cousins that lived right beside me, and then your brother-in-law Talon lived across the road, so there was always 6 boys, and all we did was play football and baseball and ride four-wheelers. So that's the kind of life that we're going to try to give our kids, and that's it don't get better than that. We still hang out all the time, and still I'm still together 24/7. So big families important to me as well.
I think so. That's something I always admired about y'all's family, really. I was like, man, that would have been awesome, because, I had the kids in my neighborhood and we were tight. But I was like, man, if these were my own cousins and family, that would have been even better. So I know y'all had a blast.
Yeah.
So with that said, that's a good segue that I wanted to mention this. And we've talked about this probably plenty of times, especially different people. But you kind of got a family divided in a lot of ways, because you've got some real staunch Tiger fans out there in y'all's area.
Yeah.
And then obviously we've got some Gamecocks in the area also. So that makes for some interesting conversations. I've had the privilege to be able to be part of some of that over the years as well. And in recent years, it's been a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Well,
now we're not like fist fighting over it. So
I didn't never get involved in any of that, thankfully. Well,
me and my cousins, obviously just being young kids, just like, mad at each other about something stupid, but, obviously as we get older, it's more of just like a rivalry and a joke. But, Clemson, Carolina, in my family's a big deal. My mom's dad graduated from Clemson. Now he passed away at a young age, and so I never met him, but that's where that stems from. So Dalton's dad, Les, and my mom and all them were big Tigers fans growing up. Well, when my dad came in, he's Gamecock through and through, and his whole family's Gamecock. So we grew up just bashing heads when November rolled around. It's like, we at some point we didn't even watch the games with each other. I mean, it's that, but at this, we're past all that. We just have a good time, and but we still talk a lot of junk to each other. Now the best part is now that we have Lenore's South Florence graduate, where all of them graduated from, they can't
Isn't that
not pull it.
interesting?
Yeah, they can't know. I mean, they pull for him because he's a Lawrence local
have to.
kid.
What are you gonna do?
That's what I say. I was like, so all these Clemson fans that'll talk junk to me, and like I said, our staff, we have a bunch of Gary's a major Clemson fan, so we talk a lot of junk, and I'm just like, yeah, well, we got Lenore's. He went to South Florence. Y'all gonna pull against him? Just to throw it in their face a little bit. But both of them are great programs, and I went up to Clemson for the first time this past year to go watch Carolina Clemson. I've never been up there.
I haven't either. Well, I bet that was pretty awesome.
Oh, and it's a very nice place. You can't get in and out that place. I mean, you don't tailgate before the game. You tailgate after the game because you got to wait for everybody to leave. So, I'm not, but it's a very nice area.
Well, if you know some secret at Willie B that I don't know, because I get stuck with that. Also,
there's secrets.
Let's talk off camera.
Yeah.
I would like to go up there too. I'm sure. I mean, they got we talk about culture. They got a great culture. So, what I thought would be good for me and you is to spend a little time on this one. Let's just talking a little Gamecock football. So, to go back to where you were going a minute ago. So Shane Beamer comes in, and when the announcement was made, they were going through the hiring cycle, and when he was one of the candidates, and my mind went blank. Billy Napier was, I thought, probably the main front line candidate at the time, and some people were a lot more excited about him than saw Beamer as kind of a settling for, you got your A and B. Me personally, I didn't really feel that way because a lot of times you chase these resumes. Napier done a really good job with the Cajuns where he was at, and it looks promising. But when everything that Shane Beamer said in that process, anything you could pick up on from him, body language, all of that. I'm sitting there watching this stuff. I'm like, this guy really cares about the University of South Carolina genuinely. Yep. And he really wants to be there. Like, it's not just a job, it's a dream. Like that. And he said that. Like, but people could say that stuff, but I don't think that was fluff. I think he was 100% serious about that. And I think he's shown that. I think he had, well, I'm not going to get into that because I'm not 100% sure if that story was true or the details on it. But I'm sure that there's been some opportunities that have come up with the recent success. And, I mean, unless circumstances just made it where it was like, there's really just, it's a no-brainer. You have to do it. I don't think you have to worry about him going anywhere.
Well, he coached here when he was younger, and so it's kind of, I think he said he raised his kid, or he have his kids here, or
in Charleston, I think.
Yeah. So he's, South Carolina, he has a lot of roots here. His dad's done coaching, so his dad can come down here with him. To me, obviously I'm a little biased, but South Carolina's a premier program. We can give the coaches whatever they want, just like every other program. Now we ain't got quite as much money as Texas and A&M, all that old money, but we can give these coaches and the facilities, and we have the best facilities in the country. And we have an incredible school where these kids can get incredible education. To me, I just don't know why a coach would want to leave if you're getting what you need here. And obviously South Carolinians are the best fans you can get.
100%.
So, we show up when we are bad, and we always have. Now, we might be up there talking crap and mad, but, it
makes me think about Javon Kinlaw's statement.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. But,
we're passionate about our program.
We are. We're just passionate people in general here.
Yeah.
And, we don't have we don't have a sports team or a pro team.
Right.
North Carolina, Charlotte, whatever. And I'm a Redskins fan, so I'm a.
So was my dad. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's we don't have that to pull for. So on Saturdays we go to the football game. So that's just what we do.
Yeah. I was gonna throw in a little NFC Championship comment there, but I'll let you slide on that one right now. But
we were there.
hey, that was great. Yeah,
what
that
a
was,
rookie
I know.
quarterback.
Yeah,
So,
that very impressive.
Yeah, so
honestly, really cool moment.
You could. Yeah, I mean,
all jokes aside, like, because my dad was a Skins fan, I thought that was super cool. That I was like, man, what an NFC Championship, and you gotta love what that did to Cowboys Nation.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So we got that in common.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that said, though, but yeah, and so Shane Beamer's done a tremendous job, and I don't think he is just a culture guy. The guy's dad's Frank Beamer. He knows some stuff about football, and especially, they call it Beamer ball, but special teams. We have people probably wondered, like, well, is that just like, come on? I mean, what are we talking about? Special? No, it's a third phase of the game, and we've seen it at South Carolina in the last 4 years. Like, yeah, it can move a game in one direction or another.
How many
if you can make a play?
How many punts have we dropped?
Quite. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I thought you said block. Yeah,
no, I'm saying like in the before being how many punts have we dropped in the critical point in the game? When we beat Clemson a couple years ago, they made the mistake in the special teams.
Exactly.
So special teams, like you said, there's 3 phases to the game, and if you're great on these 2 and you're terrible on this one, it can really affect you. So you got to emphasize that. It's not like I just think you pay attention a lot of that. I mean, when we were at school at South Florence, we spent 5 minutes on special teams in between periods. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't that important. But when you in college, punting's a big deal. Obviously, we're punting a lot. And so having a good punter is a big deal. Flipping the field and those things. So special teams matters a lot.
It does, yeah. So and then we had Pete Limbo, and that was a huge signing. He left. I forgot where he went.
Buffalo went.
Yeah, I think that's right. But that's an area that I think that Shane Beamer's going to put a lot of focus on, and we've seen it excel. You talk about punter. I mean, Kai Kroger was phenomenal punter. I'm surprised he didn't get drafted, but he did get picked up by the Jets. I don't know if you saw that or not, but he did. So hopefully he does well. That's been going well. And then I made a comment, just kind of going down the line. I made a comment about Clayton White at the beginning of last season, and I was like, he could be on the hot seat if this doesn't go well. Well, it went great. And so we talk about a program that can take you places, whether you're a coach or a player. We sent 5 guys into the NFL via the draft last month. And last month. And 4 of those guys were right there off of the defensive line. Talking Hemingway, Kennard. Yeah. Or, the front. Yeah. The defensive front. So Clayton White's also done a tremendous job. And I think there's just a lot of reason to be excited about this season. I'm really excited about it. We haven't even talked about our quarterback, which we get into that in a moment. But just the resume, though. I mean, because there were a lot of Shane Beamer haters, is what I'm saying, and that's a lot of that comes with our fan base. I get it, but I try to be some people call me, especially I've got a buddy that's Clemson alum, big Clemson guy, and he's even acknowledged. He's like, you're kind of a level-headed Carolina fan, because he said a lot of your people are not, and I'll acknowledge that. Maybe
a lot of them aren't either.
That's true. That's 100% true. 1,000% true.
Yeah.
But I try to be honest about the situation and not be too high or too low. And a lot of our people they weren't excited about Coach Beamer from the beginning, and then he's like under the microscope. He's got a super short leash. The guy's resume has been tremendous. He's done nothing but really succeed. He comes in and wins 8 games, then 7, had the 5-game season, and then last year with the 9. Last year was nobody anticipated last season, really, but
well, here's the thing.
I predicted 7 games last year, beginning of the year, just for the record. I did, for those that know that.
I think I predicted more. So what did we win, 8?
I predicted 7 and then a bowl win. So if you count that, then 8.
Yeah. So it's hard to count bowls nowadays because you don't know who's going to not play. But
it is.
I think the part with Shane was, we felt like as Carolina fans, we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on this program, updating everything we got, and then we go hire a guy that's has no head coaching experience, and I think that was what you're coming from now. His dad was obviously a legend, and so to me, I'm more in the trust your your board and your AD,
right.
Let them make those decisions.
They paid a lot of money to make those decisions.
I'm not behind the scenes. I don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? So, like, for me to criticize what's going on is, we don't know. So, but I thought Shane was a great hire. I mean, I was really, pleased with it. But could we, hired a bigger name and gone that way? We probably could have. But guess what's going to happen? Like you said, they're going to go leave for Texas or they're going to go to Georgia. Like if we'd have got hired Kirby Smart, he was going to Georgia as soon as he could. I mean, that's what happened. Right. They fired Mark Richt so that they could get Kirby Smart because Kirby Smart was going to coach for us.
They did, yeah.
So that's to me, that's just what that's what you're dealing with. And Shane, he's a Gamecock. It sounds to me he's a Gamecock through and through. And if he wants to win as bad as we want to win. And he knows, why not have him there?
He does, man. People make fun of him. He's passionate, but I mean, honestly, I think you should want all of that. Whether you find certain things cringy, like I wouldn't say that or do it. Well, you're not coaching the program, so good. You don't have to worry about it. But he's passionate. He wants to win. It's obvious. He hates to lose. It's obvious. He wants to be there. And then not only that, and I'm just, this is how I've thought about this and viewed this, but just giving credit where it's due. The guy knows football, and he's been in it his whole life at a high level. But then also from a strategic college football standpoint, he understands college football. So his role with Steve Spurrier was in recruiting. Look at those classes and the things he said he was going to do. I was looking at this. If you look at 24/7's rankings of the top South Carolina players, Shane said, he's like, our goal, one thing that we want to bring back home, which have been lost a little bit, is we want to dominate South Carolina in recruiting. We should have all of our local players coming to South Carolina. It sounds like a no-brainer. And we've got talent here in the state. Obviously, our quarterback right here in Florence is a early projection Heisman candidate for this season. So, we can produce football players. But just real quick, out of the top 10 for this cycle, 2025, the top 10 South Carolina high school players, we have 5 of them committed. Half of that list is committed to South Carolina. Clemson has 2 people on that list committed, and the other 3 are somewhere else.
Here's what I want you to do.
Okay.
And I want your listeners to go do. And I want they to go look. And I compared last year's roster. Really, that's what I was talking about. This year might be a little different, but I'm sure it's not much different. South Carolina had, I think, 16 South Carolina people that played for both sides last year started. Clemson had like 1. That to me, that makes a difference. I tell Gary all the time, he's all local, be local, and his team ain't local. Yeah. South Carolina is local. And I love the fact that we do that. We are, we coming to get these kids from the PD. So what's his name from T.J. Sanders? You got Xavier Leggett. Those guys, Tonka Hemingway, those are PD boys.
Yeah.
Lenore Sellers. Jaden Sellers.
Yeah.
These kids are all from the PD. And the PD really wasn't recruited that hard. And now, you got Josh Leonard at Wilson right now, who's a top 5 player in the country in basketball. The PD is really producing talent that like we hadn't seen. And, I think that all goes back to these programs that we're putting together and all these things. So, Lenore's is already giving back to South Florence. That stuff right there, it's incredible. I'm kind of getting back to, why it's good for those things. But, recruiting and getting the kids from our area and then going up there and beating Clemson, who had 1 kid from South Carolina, it feels pretty good.
It does. It's a really big deal. And again, I know I'm harping on it. I'm doing that intentionally, just as much for our fan base as any other listener that's listening. Shane said all this in his introductory press conference. He talked about this stuff from day one. These are my goals. And you can't ask for more than that in any line of work from anybody. This is my plan. In the interview process, the hiring process, this is what I'm planning to do to bring to this position. And then if the person's actually doing it and demonstrating it, you can't ask for more than that, and he's doing it. And the recruiting class is just another thing I was looking at is he started out, we were like 70-something because he came in late in that cycle. The firing and the hiring was kind of late. And then we, we had to build a little steam. The next year was a little bit better. I think we were like 40-something consensus, like on 3 consensus nationally. but the last 3 have been in the top 20. We're always in the mid part of the pack in the SEC because that's the reality of the conference we're in. And you might say, well, Will Muschamp's classes he recruited well too.
He did.
But like you said, there's multiple phases to it. It's culture, it's coaching, it's player development is the other part, and you're trying to find somebody that can do all 3. Then you got to maintain a staff, and that's also a whole nother technique and skills. How do you scout and evaluate coaching talent to replace your positions? Because if you have any level of success, these guys are going to leave and go up to higher pay grades. So
I mean, that's like,
it's not easy.
Well, that's why I salute Nick Saban and, those like
Tremendous, man, legendary.
And, Bill Belichick, I don't know how well he's going to do this year, but, those guys, I mean, they could produce coordinators like it was nothing. You know what I mean? I mean, that was just how they could do that is unreal, and that's why they are the best.
Unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody gets the GOAT title these days. Nick Saban is the GOAT. Like, there's just no other way to say it. Because, I mean, really, Nick's success is still in the modern landscape of what he did. I still consider that in the modern college football era. He maintained all of those. He did all of that. Is an A+ on everything we talked about, and that's why Alabama had the success they had long term. But at the same time, he's kind of the last of a dying breed, and maybe really Kirby Smart more so is, in the sense that everything's changed. Because, by the way, last season, not only has Shane Beamer's program seen some of the success it's seen, we probably are one penalty call. We are, not probably, one flag, one erroneous, just infuriating flag away from making the playoff last year.
I was there.
Which it was a dumb play. I mean, Kennard probably, shouldn't have done that. You're a lawyer. I'd say, though, legally he was allowed to do what he did. It was clean.
Yeah. Well, I don't.
Not smart, but clean.
I block bad things out in my memory. And
that's a bad memory.
And that's a bad memory.
It is.
It eats me up every time I think about it. I really thought that us going into Death Valley and this team's projected to be one of the best teams in the country this year. That team is, and we beat them.
We did.
That I thought that was enough to get in. But I mean, I don't want to get into all that. So.
Well, it was the Alabama and the Ole Miss losses that was the nail in the coffin. But that penalty, I mean, we would have been in the playoff, which amazing.
But we had a sophomore quarterback that's never started a game. You know what I mean? God, he's playing in the hardest conference in the country. Give him a few games, and then we go undefeated on the way out. You would think like, that team's trending the right direction.
I think they missed it. A lot of people felt like they missed it, but it is what it is. And we're obviously going to talk about him and Jaden also a little bit. They're here at the back end just to kind of wrap up. But either way, the landscape of college football, so Saban and then Kirby Smart's probably the last. But see, now things have changed so much because of the way that the transfer portal is and the NIL situations. It has created a lot more parity, I guess. And we'll see how all that plays out. I don't know if that whole situation is done changing. Obviously, Greg Sankey came out and said that the SEC is departing from the NCAA yesterday or the day before that. So who knows where all this is going to settle with realignment and all kind of things. It's probably not done changing. But bottom line is that no matter what, it does seem like an era of college football is done. And I think there's a chance that what you saw Nick Saban do, that was the way that it worked. If a program could get to the top in their recruiting, and year after year they're bringing in the most 5-star and 4-star, the most blue chip talent year in and year out, and they're stockpiling those rosters. I mean, you maintain dominance that way. It's changing now, so we'll see. With that said, one more thing, just to continue, just to kind of chip away at building up our head coach in the program a little bit, is also the transfer portal. Now, this is something that Clemson doesn't do, as we know. And it seems like from what we've seen, Dabo's philosophy is still, he's dipping his toes in a little bit, but they're still not really exploring that. That may prove to be a mistake.
Well, I think it's a mistake. But there's a few things that I can commend Dabo on. And that's one I really like that he's kind of now. It might cost him, but I really like the fact that he's doing that. And the reason I say
I respect his philosophy.
no, that's
100%.
what I'm saying. It's not more I respect it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's more I respect it because now, could we survive in the SEC without doing it? Absolutely not. But I think there's got to be. And who are we to say this? But I mean, there's got to be some. They say you can't pay for play, right? So the NIL is not pay for play. Yeah, but okay. Well, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And so none of these kids can just go do what they want to do. They can sign and leave, and now they probably have it set up where you can't get the money unless you're here for this. You know what I mean? They have it set up that way, but it is pay for play. And so there's got to be some regulations, and they need to figure some of this stuff out. I think Kirby Smart was saying that have only one transfer portal a year or something. But I mean, to me, I mean, I think it evened out football a little bit, and I think I like it. I think it's probably going to be, better for South Carolina. But I mean, you kind of respect Dabo in that stance.
Well, what he's trying to do is raise guys up. I do. I've got a lot of respect for Dabo Swinney, honestly, but it's a business and it's a game. That's evolving, so you have to change with it if you want to continue to succeed with it, probably. And that's another thing that, Shane Beamer's a younger mind, and he's just embraced it. So from the very beginning, I mean, think about that first year of transfer portal changing, there was the big one. We bring in Spencer Rattler, and then the tight end was Stone. What was his name? The tight end from OU? Stone?
Yeah.
Stogner.
Stogner.
Austin Stogner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but either way, the big headline all over ESPN, this is national news. It's a big deal because perception is 90% of reality. Yeah. So it wasn't even so much. And then thankfully, Spencer actually did really well. The University of South Carolina, Coach Shane Beamer and his staff, his coordinators and, all of the assistants, they resurrected Spencer Rattler's career. By the way, that's a big deal. These are real people. These are real careers. He is right now currently at OTAs, the one that's been leading the first team offense down in New Orleans with the Saints.
Well, it's also, that there's that culture and how you act. And, I think Spencer would, if you ever saw that, the QB1 and I don't.
He did a phenomenal job at South Carolina, I think.
Man, he changed his perception, the way he
100%.
acted, the way he treated people, and guess the talent was always there. He just, was he the best leader? Probably not. So you go to a coach that, strive, that's what they push, and I think that was really good for Spencer. So I mean, awesome. I hope he starts. I hope he's the best quarterback in the NFL. I mean, because that's what now South Carolina's got the best quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the way I look at it. And that's like, I mean, I hope Clemson produces people too. I mean, it's good for our state. I give Clemson a hard time, but it's good for our state for these kids to come here and do good, and hopefully they come back and give back.
Yeah. And he's been doing that. He had a camp.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But it with that perception factor, I think that intentionality about using and leveraging the transfer portal, that was Shane Beamer talked about. He told us everything he's going to do, and he's just been doing it. And then he goes and he had the relationship with Spencer, obviously from OU, but he's able to land him. But to the average consumer or people in other markets that are college football consumers and fans, they're watching ESPN that evening, and the headline goes across, Spencer Rattler commits to South Carolina. That sends a shockwave. It has a residual effect that puts us on the map. Yes, South Carolina is a destination, and that's been, Clemson was able to achieve that. Little school out in the middle of nowhere, basically in the upstate, has been able to achieve that. That helped us kind of get that kind of momentum. That's what we need. It's like, well, hey, you need to consider South Carolina. They could send you to the league, and you can have success playing out there.
Yeah,
Spencer went,
We always say that Clemson started early with NIL.
Yeah. Well, we'll stay out of that. But
I'm just kidding.
But yeah, it's it was a big deal. And so the 24/7 does the transfer portal rankings. And so yet again, for this cycle, we've got 17, I think, commits out of the portal for this coming season, and they've got us ranked 15th. Yeah. So you combine that with the consensus on 3 ranking of, I think, 18th, 19th, 17th, 18th, 19th, something like that. and recruiting. With that, you're bringing in a strong class of players. And the thing I like about what Beamer's doing is he's not necessarily chasing big names. I mean, sure, we probably strike out on some guys. I'm not saying that we don't, but they really just try to go in and fill needs. And I think that you kind of be silly to not use the portal for that purpose. People get hurt. Other guys transfer out to get opportunities or whatever, more money maybe, whatever the case may be. And then guys go to the NFL. You've got access to these kids all over the country that have entered the portal. So I mean, why wouldn't you fill holes with that? It's like free agency.
No, it's. I mean, that's what I do like about it is next year's we lost a lot on defense, but then we went out to the portal and we got a bunch of kids that are going to come in and I think help us. And but then we also we got a bunch of freshman receivers that we like, including Jaden Sellers. So what's it, Donovan Murphy from Irma? He's gonna be legit.
And then Malik Carter's out of Carter.
So, something like that. But I'm not sure who that. But
he's out of Rock Hill. I think it's Carter.
But I mean then you pair them with the talent we already have in that room, and you got Lenore Sellers, and obviously I was an offensive lineman, so I'm big on the offensive line, and I Josiah Thompson, Dillon, South Carolina.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I mean, I care. I mean, I care about all that stuff. And if we give Lenore's protection and he's got people to catch the ball, sky's the limit for this team. Now you got defense, and that transfer portal will hopefully fill some of those needs. I think we're gonna have a good secondary. I'm big on linebacker. I know obviously defensive line, you got to have a bunch of their talent there, but you can't compete in the SEC if you don't have that. But linebacker, to me, all these great teams have always had crazy fast linebackers. Your Demetrius Knights and your Bam Martin Scotts and Debo was a good linebacker. I mean that made our defense so much better last year. So.
I really thought the Eagles were going to draft Nick Emanwari, who I went to Irmo when I was in Columbia, so there was a little connection on that. So I just had me keeping an eye on him, but he turned out to be phenomenal at South Carolina, obviously, and caught the interception that got called back, unfortunately. And I thought the Eagles were going to draft him, but Jahad Campbell was available, and so they obviously picked him up. But I think there's a good chance that if Campbell wasn't there, Emanwari would have been in Philadelphia. Maybe. Well, I guess not, because they drafted the safety out of Texas, and he was still available, I think. Anyways, yeah, local talent, a lot of local talent doing really well. So with that being said, you kind of projected a little bit about this season and leading up to that. So I want to talk the schedule real quick and then see what kind of predictions, what you think this season could look like. And off the top of my head, and I might get you to pull it up because I don't have my gadgets. But I think we start off obviously with Virginia Tech, and then we've got like South Carolina State, Vanderbilt. I think we've got Missouri and Kentucky are our first 5 games.
Yep. And then LSU.
Yeah. Yep. And that's on the road because obviously we played them at home last year. We all remember that. So I could see all those games are tough. I don't ever little wisdom.
Let's
never
start
underestimate anybody.
Let's start at the first one.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Every time we play an ACC team, start out of the year, and I know this because my family's big North Carolina Tar Heel fans.
Oh man,
my wife's family is.
Makes me think about Sam Howell.
Yeah. So I really want to emphasize that game, and I hope we are taking our time to really put our
They've got to be though because of the Shane Beamer connection. Like that's a huge game for him.
But I worry about that game because it's the start of the year. We don't have the kinks out yet, and honestly, that we have so much turnover. How good we know what our offense should be.
Yeah.
We got a new offense coordinator, so all that plays a role into this first game. So that first game, neutral site, it worries me a lot. But if we roll that game, I think we should roll into LSU undefeated. I don't know
Missouri
what Kentucky
always gives us trouble.
I know they do, but
I hate playing them.
Brady Cook's going, correct? Their quarterback.
Yeah. And
then Kentucky, you never know what they're going to do in the portal, but Missouri the same way. So those teams can compete through the portal. Those worry me, but you get through Virginia Tech and you get that confidence building. Then your next game, Missouri and obviously Kentucky, but that LSU game with what's his name back? that's a payback game. So, I think we have that game circled on our calendar. I'm for sure.
Yeah.
So what's our record coming into that will play a big role, and I think that will determine playoff. Because after that, it's, I think we play Bama, got Clemson,
Texas A&M, Oklahoma.
So we got a tough schedule after that. But having that momentum is a big deal.
Yeah, so I looked at those first 5 games, and this, especially on paper, I mean, they're all winnable for sure. That's obvious. Doesn't mean that you're going to win them because they're all going to have their challenges. Missouri, Kentucky is always a tough game. Very rarely is it just like that's never an easy game, really. Yeah. I mean, we beat Alabama, and the whole country is like amazed, and then we turn around the next week and lose to Kentucky. They're just always a thorn in the side.
Well, but for me, I feel like a lot of that's changing.
I hope so. It seems
South
that
Carolina
way.
fans we know we'd have lost that game in Clemson 2 years ago, 3 years. That or before Beamer. That perception, I feel like that stuff's kind of changing.
That's how it feels.
No, it does. I don't want to get too beyond, but yeah, I mean,
we've been burned a lot though in our lives.
And so, I'm not over it. That's what I'm saying. Virginia Tech. We'll circle that game. Let's start.
Yeah.
Let's start that game, and then we'll work our way up to South Carolina State.
Exactly.
So, and then you got 2 games to get your stuff ready before Kentucky and Missouri. So I like that. And then you got your the gauntlet at the end. So.
Right. So I mean I could see if they take care of business that first month, 5 to 6 weeks of the season, I could see an 8-win season this year, realistically.
Yeah.
I think that's a realistic estimation.
Let's hope more.
But I mean, an 8-win season, and now with this expanded playoff and the competition level, it's not like it was where, you lose 1 game, you're out. You lose 2, you're definitely out. Things have changed. You can have a 3 or 4 loss season now and make a 12-team playoff, especially I think with the competition within conferences. Is there any team in the SEC right now? Things have changed. Daddy Saban's gone. And by the way, you got Lane Kiffin out there who's, you talk about a thorn in the side. I really hope we go down there and beat them this year.
Yeah. Well,
he's become an aggravation because he seems
is.
to want to just throw shots on social media all the time.
He understands South Carolina's a big, we have a big social media presence. Yeah. So
our social media team's awesome.
Well,
they're underrated, I think.
Underrated. They're best in the country. There ain't about that. But no, I'm talking about just our fan base. So he knows that it'll rile us up, and so he
does a good job at that.
Oh man, he knows how to do it. So I think he's probably a pretty good person. I think he'd be cool to hang out with and behind the scenes, but. Let's see how he does without Dart this year. So,
we'll see. It'd be nice to go down there and just
they got,
run them out of their own building.
Oh man, and it really hurt when Juice. That was another.
Oh my gosh.
We won't go down there.
No, we don't need to even go there. So, anyways, I'm saying 8. I'd say try to be, modest in my approach and set my expectations that way.
Carolina fan, you gotta be, you gotta start
right.
Yeah, we gotta start low.
But it'd be nice to and even the Alabama game that we really probably, you could argue, should have won that game. And it was right there for the taking. So that would be one this year to be nice to pick up as well. That'd be one in particular I've got circled I'd like to go to this year.
Well, most of these teams don't have their quarterbacks back. So,
right.
LSU does. So that's but quarterback obviously in the SEC is a big deal. And I feel like we probably got the best. So, every game we go into, I'm feeling pretty good. But obviously I'm a little biased. But
absolutely, me too. And so to wrap this up, and then we'll get into our last segment, but just kind of the last topic on talking Gamecocks football. We can't talk about all of this without talking about our quarterback, and that's really from last season. There's a lot of things that happened, a lot of things to be encouraged about, a lot of things you could talk about. But the thing that sticks in my mind is not all the time that you see a player that's either capable of and then actually goes out and will put an entire team on his back. So I could point out multiple games, but the obvious one's the Clemson game. I mean, you just think about you watch it, and I don't know how you take anything away. Obviously, everybody plays a role. So offensive linemen don't get nearly the credit they should. You want to build a championship organization, you build it in the trenches.
Yep.
So I mean that you should know that if you know football. But certainly having a quarterback playing the way that he was playing, and it's like it's an X factor. It's almost like the Kobe Jordan type of thing where it's like we are going to win this game. I don't care what has to happen and what I have to do to make it happen. We're not leaving here today with a loss. And we saw that multiple times last season, but in the Clemson game, absolutely. And it wasn't just with his legs. It was with throws that were made, but also with his legs too. And I remember watching that play. We were on like the 23, 24-yard line, and I'm sitting there watching it with a very big-time Clemson fan that we both know well. Won't say any names. And I made a comment right before the snap. I said, this is when you see the 20-yard Lenore Sellers run for a touchdown. And he did it.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, it was crazy about it. It's like, what did everybody in the stadium or everybody know what he was going to do? And then they couldn't stop
Couldn't
it.
do nothing about it.
I mean, and like, so he, what I said earlier, he's got it. And we can't explain it, but he's got it.
It's just something.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that's his character. I think a lot of that's off the field things, and it's my understanding that when I perceive Lenore's for this next year, I don't think about last year Lenore's. I think about where's Lenore's going to be this year, and if he's got the work ethic and what I think and what I hear, that the sky's the limit for Lenore. So that's kind of the way I look at it. For I really think that he was here and he could really be here. I mean, he he continues to work and he continues to grow. Man, he could be something. I mean, and when I mean something, NFL.
I know.
Awesome. I mean, we talk about Lenore's, but his little brother is Jaden. We saw him take over that state championship game, and that dude was the best player on the field, and it wasn't even close. Yeah. And everybody knew it. And I always tell people, it's like, how can you determine a 5-star? You take your mama or your grandmama or your wife out there to the football field, and you ask her who the 5-star is, or if they point him out. Right. They're a true 5-star. If they can't point them out, they don't know. And so he's everybody knew who he was. He's the best player. The stars, though. I
mean, we've learned that. I mean, Josh Allen, if I'm correct, was either a 3-star or unrated. And look at him, and the dude's a beast in the NFL.
Well, we got the benefit of Lenore's being getting hurt and hurting his left shoulder, not his throw shoulder.
I thought you were going to say just his the recruiting that went on with him.
But that's what I'm saying is nobody knew who he was because
we did. Because I remember being watching him.
He didn't lose or his junior year. I mean, they didn't come close to losing a game, and then he got hurt. All right. Yeah. So it wasn't even close. He got hurt. Then they come back the next year, and no team came within 40 points of him. Yeah. And so everybody was just like, if we don't go get this kid, we all knew. I mean, we're going to the games, we see it, but. I mean, like I said, the PD has not always been a breeding ground for all this talent. I mean, or it has been. We just usually, and I hate to say it, a lot of our talent. And when I was in school, they got caught up in drugs or got in trouble. So all of that stuff's kind of now, and so some of those players that were incredible that I know would have been Division I players. They quit in 10th grade. You know what I mean? And
that's the same thing whenever I was in.
And so that perception and that community, like I was saying with Marlo, that stuff's changing. The best players are making the best grades and the best leaders. You know what I mean?
It needs to be, yeah.
And that's what you want. Because guess what? The people that are behind them and under them, they're like, I got to be like that. If I want to be like that, if I want to get there, I got to be like that. And that's everything in life. That's not just football.
Correct.
I mean, that's you work hard, and I mean you're a testament to that. You work hard, you'll get there. And you just continue to do it. You continue to do it. You're gonna get there. It's this life's weird and it's crazy. When you think something happens and it's terrible, it opens the door to something else. Yeah. And if you continue to work hard and you can do anything. So I mean, I think Lenore Sellers and Jaden and all these players that are coming after them are really doing that. So
100%, and that's what I love about the Sellers brothers, and I'm hoping that we can get them to come by the Florence Foodie Studio and get them on a podcast episode. Remains to be seen if that could be worked out. But
well, you only got one A-lister so far. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Humble guy.
No,
the humble guy.
I'm just kidding.
But yeah, they're great role models for our community, and a huge. I mean, it's almost. I say Florence is one of the country's best kept secrets. That's in a lot of ways, and I think you could see Lenore's on Sundays definitely, and then obviously now Jaden's going to get an opportunity. That wide receiver group, there's opportunity there. I've heard Nick Harbor is really developing and looking really good throughout the spring. People say stuff, but it sounds like he's really developing. And I mean, man, he's got all of these metrics. So if he could really be a standout, that would be huge. But you saw what Mazio Bennett did last season. So, I mean, he could, Jaden could come on and really make an impact this season. We'll see. And it's great for the two of them to be able to play together. I know that's not everybody gets an opportunity like that. So that's got to be awesome. But one thing, I'll tell a story real quick, just talking about Lenore Sellers, and then we'll start to land this. I got the opportunity to work with someone earlier last year, who, due to his position in Columbia, is connected to the program. If I'm correct, he's connected to both major programs in South Carolina, South Carolina and Clemson. But he's at the facilities, he's around the team and everything. And he made a comment to me. He was down in Florence, looking at properties and stuff, and he said, your hometown guy, your quarterback is. And as a matter of fact, let me back up, because I'll make sure I got the timeline right. But he was saying this before Lenore Sellers had started any games last year. So this may have gone back to the end of the season before. Spencer Rattler may have still been on campus. I'm not 100% sure, but either way, Lenore's hadn't played any games yet as the starter for the team. So that makes this even more significant, the story that he told me. So mind you, the guys at practice, he's been around college football because of his position a lot and around different programs in the country. This is what he said to me. He said, your quarterback, I'm just going to tell you, this is not a local guy, so he's not biased. He said, as a matter of fact, I think he's a Texas guy, if I'm correct. But he said it had most recently been with Texas A&M, as a matter of fact. Just trying to give you some context here, because I thought this was a huge statement, because now we're seeing it play out. So he was like, I just want to tell you this. He said, your hometown kid, he said, watching him at practice, he said, I don't think it'll be this year. He said, it could be. He said, I think he's a dark horse Heisman candidate this year, talking about last season. He said, but next season, talking about this season coming up, he said he will be on the it like gives me goosebumps saying, I don't even know why, it's just football, but it does. He said he will be on the national radar. He'll be a national Heisman candidate next season. And the reason it gives you goosebumps is because, that's exactly where we are right now. Wow. But he's at practice watching them. But this is the part that I also know he said is probably why I feel that way. He said, I have not seen anybody that looks so sharp and dominant with their size, athleticism, acumen, all of the above, since I was at camps and practices watching one Cam Newton. That's what he said to me. And when he said it, I was like, whoa. I was like, dude, that's a huge statement, because if anybody knows how dominant Cam Newton was, it's South Carolina fans. If Cam Newton's not playing at Auburn the time that he is, we probably got an SEC championship finally. At least got one under our belt. But we ran into one Cam Newton, and that was all she wrote. It's kind of like the LSU team with Joe Burrow from a couple years ago. Nobody was going to beat them. Huge statement about Lenore Sellers.
That year, Clemson and Carolina had a chance to beat Auburn, and they both lost. And then we went and played him in the SEC championship when he got a few games under his belt. And wore everybody out.
He did. Dominant.
Yeah.
But that was the comparison that he made. And when you look at what happened last season, and when you look at the projections this year, I'm like, hey, the guys there watching them, I'm not. But I'm saying like that, you take it with a grain of salt, but I'm going to take it and say, that's a pretty big statement.
Man, I want to be like so excited and about this season, and I really am. But I'm trying to contain myself.
I know where you're going with this.
I'm trying to contain myself a little bit because I really do think that he like I said is him, and
and everything around him too.
That's what I'm saying. He's got a great family, and all that stuff plays a role, man. Like if he's stressed out, guess what? He's gonna call his mama and his daddy, and his brother, and they're gonna be fine. You know what I mean? He's gonna talk to Coach Beamer. And he's like, don't worry about that stuff. You know, like you just play ball. And, I think that the sky's the limit for this team and Lenore's. Man, I'm really excited for him. And, I can't be more excited that he's a South Florence grad and PD kid.
And the community support that he's got here, too, for that matter. So, both of them.
Oh, man, he's a legend
even
here.
From us West Florence Knights. I'm going to speak on behalf of all the alum and say that, there's full support from all of us here at home. So we'll see. It's going to be good. Very excited about everything with our program. And after the 5 years of misery that preceded it, I'm still riding a high right now, just of excitement of where we are. There's a lot to be grateful for if you're in Garnet and Black these days, so I hope that y'all are out there. So, with that said, it's now time to wind this down with a segment that we call the Florence Foodie's Favorite Florence Food Item, presented by Drayton Realty Group. The question is, what is Will Edwards' one, maybe a few, favorite items to eat out at a restaurant or restaurants when you go out to eat with your family, with your friends, with your colleagues in the city or county of Florence?
So I'm just going to throw this out there that I don't know if people said this yet, but Thai House has got the best food in Florence. I'm just
that's a big statement.
It's not a big statement. It's just it's a fact. It's got awesome food. It's incredible. But we enjoy Townhouse, we enjoy Victor's, we enjoy Redbone, we enjoy Starfire. We go to the big ones all the time. We're always there. So Florence is, the food scene's growing. This right here is awesome. I appreciate you doing this because, I want people to, think that Florence is a good food spot. Obviously, you can tell I like to eat a little bit. We need some good food spots around here, but my favorite thing is favorite place to eat is probably Thai House.
What are your favorite items there when you go? What do you normally get?
You can get the standard pad Thai, which is great. There's a thing I call it the gang dang. It's what I spelled. I don't know if you say it or not, but it's called gang dang. It's great. But everything I've gotten there is good. The Indian place, Taste of India, is awesome.
Yeah.
That place is awesome. Obviously, me and Emily, my wife, go to pretty much every Mexican place in Florence. We love Mexican food. But other than that, those are.
Yeah, so nobody has it. That was a great one, actually, because it doesn't get talked about a lot, but the Thai restaurant on Dargan is really good.
I think underrated that people don't talk about, it's like the Jumpin' Jays, your Townhouse, and your Sunday House. Those places are phenomenal too. But that people don't really think about that as that's like more lunch and stuff like that. But those places are premier.
Especially like Sunday House, I guess, because the way the
301 drive-in,
the restaurant, just small drive-through restaurant window service, people might not realize it, but the salads over there, the gyros, there's a lot of different items they have. It's an excellent dinner option, a little Greek place. So which hopefully they'll be back up and running soon.
Yeah.
But great answer. Now, unique answer. We've had Stefano's for like about a month and a half straight. So
and I don't want to throw Stefano's is incredible.
Well, we're going to be there next week. We're going to the next episode that we're filming is scheduled to be with the guys at Stefano's.
Well, that place is
we'll be on site.
It's incredible. We go there all the time. Yeah. So that's one of our favorites. I just wasn't thinking about that. People say that all the time, so I just kind of wanted to mix it up a little bit.
Great answer.
Appreciate it.
All right, well, it was good to catch up. Talk a little Gamecocks football. I was looking for a reason to sit here for an hour on this podcast and just talk Gamecocks football, and I knew that you could provide that, and so I really appreciate it. Definitely looking forward to this season. Any Clemson fans that are listeners, hey, we love y'all too. And with that said, I appreciate you
Thank
stopping
you, Sammy.
by.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you
Yep.
for having me, brother.
Will, again, is at Finkley, Hendrick, and Blake on Evans Street. So if you need any legal services or anything, keep Will in mind. Those guys are out there. They do a great job with everything. We love working with them, love their office. And we always love and appreciate your viewership and listenership. And God willing, we'll see you on the next one.